Welcome everyone to Powered and Protected by Rainbows. I am of course your host Matt Haslam, and this is the special live after show for our May 2020 LGBTQ news program. So if you haven't already seen the news stories of the month, please go check those out in that episode right now, because there's a lot of spoilers about to come later on in this episode. This is the after show where we talk about all the news stories, other news stories which happened that couldn't fit into our regular program. So there's a lot in this episode. But before we get to any of that, I want to kind of address two small things. Sort of, first off, the elephant in the room, this haircut. I'm aware that it's really growing. I'm starting to look like Shaggy off of like Scooby-Doo, or like a surfer dude or something like that with really long hair. I understand that. Please don't comment about it. I understand. I get it. It doesn't look that great. I get it. But I will say that, you know, all the hairdressers and barbers are shut down right now, so there's nothing I can do about it. Other than maybe, like, ask my sister to do it for me, but I think the extent to haircuts that she wants to do are, like, on my 3-year-old nephew, but I don't think she wants to do a bunch of other people's haircuts. So, yeah, that's kind of, like, the extent to what I can do right now. So, for right now, we're just going to live with it, and you know what? If my hair goes long on the episodes, I'm really sorry, but, you know, it'll be what it'll be. So that's fun. Also, second thing of the month that's like happening is that we actually got like, I think we're like so close, and by the time this episode airs, we're gonna be like at 600 subscribers, which is freaking incredible. So thank you so much for that. I mean, honestly, like when I started this entire channel, it was to help maybe 1 or 2 LGBTQ kids out there, and then now to hear all the stories in the comments of just people we've helped over the years, and you know, to keep growing the way we are at the rate we are. I mean, it was only like, what, 2 weeks ago or something like that where we hit 500. So now, I mean, it's just exponentially going up now. So thank you so much for that. I love the fact that we're getting a number of subscribers. It was never about the number of subscribers, but more about the more people we can help, the better, you know? So the more you're sharing these episodes, the more people we can help. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for all the inspiring comments down below of all of our episodes. You know, we do get some homophobic and transphobic people out there. Sometimes we get death threats, and it's not nice, but definitely your inspirational comments more than make up for all of the hateful comments we get. So thank you so much for that. But we got a teleprompter this month. We always had a little teleprompter on my phone to use, and it wasn't that big of a screen. So what ended up happening was, hey, if I made a mistake here, I had to like get up, go to the camera, scroll up, and get to that line again. Nowadays, it's like so much easier, because one of my neighbors gave me an entire computer screen for free, which was crazy. It's an old one, but still it's a computer screen that works for it, so why not? Then I like built a black foam, like, and glass from a picture frame. I'll have to put a picture up for you, but it's really, really cool. So I built that for like $2, and then mounted the screen to a tripod for like another $1. And I'm like, you know what? Just plug it into a laptop that we have in the office. And now my entire script is on a computer that I can control with a mouse. So I no longer have to get up all the time, which is so much easier. Yeah, it just makes life a million times easier. And the more we can cut down on the time to actually record an episode here in the studio, the more time I can save in editing later on. And that means I can make more episodes or get to, you know, client work a lot faster. And during like the busy times of the year, or what's about to happen here, of like as soon as we get back to somewhat normal when clients can start having events again, believe me, this is going to get so crazy. Half the equipment in our entire warehouse here is going to be out. So like it's gonna get crazy, and so the more time I can save making an episode here in the studio, the more episodes I can put out during that craziness. Because sometimes of the year my company is doing like 6 or 10 events every weekend. So it kind of gets difficult to like do a weekly schedule while spending so many hours doing what we do, to make it look professional and good. And I don't want to put out an episode that's like half-assed or anything. So it's so much easier to have a bigger screen, to have more words on the screen so I can read more of the script. It's just, unless you've worked with a teleprompter, I don't know if you understand how much easier it makes it. But a proper big teleprompter is so much easier. But yeah, that happened this month. So I hope you don't get distracted by my eyes going back and forth a little bit, but hey, it makes it easier to make an episode, so I'm really sorry if that's happening. I don't know. I haven't really edited this episode yet, so I don't know if it worked out like that. Anyway, so honestly, what is happening in this pandemic? Like, genuinely, beginning of all this pandemic stuff going on, first off, our sympathies to all the first responders, all the nurses, the staff, the doctors working tirelessly right now, working their asses off trying to find a cure and trying to help those affected. So hats off to them. But like, I thought with the pandemic, we're not going to have to deal with that many LGBTQ news stories happening at the time. Because, I mean, who's going to discriminate against LGBTQ or anyone amid a pandemic? Who's going to say, let's pass some anti-LGBTQ discrimination law or anti-LGBTQ legislation right now? Who's going to do any of that, right? Well, why would you do something against any community right now? We should all come together and like realize we're one whole country or one whole world right now. And if anything, this should make us stronger in the end, And that's what I was thinking. Like, hey, that's why you saw us going to a bi-monthly schedule for this news show, because I'm like, there's not going to be enough news to talk about every month, right? And then, after March hits, there's not much in the beginning of April, so I'm like, hey, let's not put it on the schedule for this month of another news show. And then, of course, end of April happens, beginning of May happens, and holy crap, there's a lot to talk about. And so, hence the longer episode, and hence an after show to talk about more stuff that's going on. So, genuinely, there's too much to talk about that we just had to cut some stories this month, and hopefully we'll get to them today. But in the after show or on other episodes. So, but anyway, the first one I kind of want to talk about is, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but let's talk about Theresa Gaffney again, because I mean, I've talked about her more on this show than, okay, no, to be fair, I talked about Trump more, but I talked about her a lot. So back in like November, we were petitioning the county officials here in Schuylkill County for an Equality Act of Schuylkill County. And we were asking them, please pass some legislation or put up some rules, or at least petition and ask the state for these rules. Tell them that, we're gonna, Schuylkill County supports anti-discrimination laws to help the LGBTQ, Eventually, after going to multiple meetings for the county commissioners, they did sign a letter to the representatives and senators for our area, and they did send that to them. We double-checked and stuff. Sadly, it didn't mention LGBTQ, which was fun. But anyway, right after that, their big concern was, hey, how come we've never heard about discrimination happening against the LGBTQ? And so we did an entire story about it to tell them about it. This is the answer. You ask, how come we're not hearing about discrimination? So here's your answer. This is why. It is because of people like Theresa Gaffney, who are elected to office time and time again, who are massive homophobic people. They are in our county offices right now, working, and she specifically is working in the marriage license department, where she's the person you go to get a marriage license in this county. So, people fear her. And people fear homophobes like that. Because if you're not aware, and if you haven't seen our multiple stories about her, way, way back in the day when Pennsylvania and the federal government passed marriage equality, she did not agree with marriage equality. She, back then and still to this day, in her quoted materials to us and provided through text messages, she still believes that marriage should be between a man and a woman, right? So way back in the day, when marriage equality passed, she challenged the federal government, and she took it all the way to the federal court. And she sued and said, I don't want to do my job. I don't want to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. I don't think that is right. I don't know why. Like, it's already passed. Why are you challenging it? Like, this is a good thing. We're heading in the right direction, you know? And so she challenged it, and she was the only clerk of courts in all of Pennsylvania to challenge it. Please keep that factoid in mind for a moment. We will come back to it, I promise you. So later, when her case actually was heard, the federal judge denied her case completely, laughed in her face, and said, "You're ridiculous for even trying to bring this up. The federal court ain't going to hear it. The Supreme Court ain't going to hear it. Goodbye, you know? Do your job." And she said, well, why can't this case be heard by the Supreme Court? Why can't I at least get it heard? Well, the Supreme Court already heard a marriage equality case, so I don't know what decision you're after there. But so Theresa Gaffney came back, and she finally decided, you know what, I should probably do my job. That I'm paid to do, by the way, that Theresa Gaffney is paid to do. She should probably do her job. So kudos to her for doing her job, as the rest of elected officials should do. Anyway, so years later, she decides to run for higher office this year, and she is currently running in the 125th District of Pennsylvania in the Pennsylvania State House of Representatives. And she's running against 3 other competitors, one of which is a man by the name of Christy Joy. We will circle back to him as well, by the way. So she runs for higher office, and we do a story about her last news show in March of 2020. We ran a story on Theresa Gaffney, all about how she's running for higher office now. And we asked her in that news story for comments, because we don't want to just run a story and not have comments from both sides. We asked her multiple times, about a dozen times or so, what's your stance on marriage equality now? Are you going to try to challenge it yet again if you get into this elected office? If you're elected, will you support the PA Fairness Act, conversion therapy bans, LGBTQ education in all schools in Pennsylvania? These things that are desperately needed. They are supported by a majority of Pennsylvanians. Will you vote for it? Or will you go against it? What is your stance on this now? Like, I don't want to judge you solely on this one court case years and years ago. What is your stance now? She never gets back to me at that point. And so the story goes out. I'm like, hey, we asked her for a comment. She denied comment. That's what happens. If you want to have a say in our episodes, respond to our questions. It's just as simple as that. She has a large team. I know many of the people that are working on her campaign. Why is she not responding? So we go on. And a little while later, her campaign page shares something very interesting. So out of the blue, let me get to it here, because it's so funny. And like I said, none of this is edited, so it's all off the cuff. And that's what happens in this show. So she shares photos of her in front of a podium of the PA Family Institute. Now, if you're not aware, PA Family Institute is well known for being a hate group, because anti-LGBTQ groups can be classified as hate groups under federal court rules now. So that's fun. And multiple people have condemned PA Family Institute for being a hate group already, so that's fun. And she is sharing herself being behind the podium of a known hate group now. She shares these photos, and they are from an award ceremony where she is being awarded the, Power of One Award. It's a award for her courage. If that's a thing that you can classify her actions as, because she was the only clerk of courts in Pennsylvania to challenge marriage equality. So, she receives an award for being a homophobe. And the only one to challenge marriage equality. She receives this award. Because the PA Family Institute, by the way, is anti-LGBTQ. They, on their website right now, if you go there and check it out, which I don't encourage doing, but if you want to fact check what I'm saying, you can go there and check it out. They are adamantly against marriage equality. They believe that senators and House of Representatives should overturn the Supreme Court ruling on this, and gay people should never be allowed to marry. How dare gay people want the same rights and freedoms of everyone else in the country? How dare we want to have a ball and chain just like you have a ball and chain as a straight couple? You know, how come we want the same kind of relationship that you straight people always complain about in your everyday life? How dare we want that equality, right? But anyway, she shares these photos. She's so proud of getting this Courage of One award, or this Power of One award, right? And in her post, she says, where the hell is it at? In her post on sharing these photos, she's like, in 2014, Barack Obama and his far-left allies waged war against Pennsylvania's Defense of Marriage Act, known as DAMA, which that was the law which didn't allow gay people to get married in Pennsylvania before marriage equality passed and overturned it. But all of the Commonwealth's 67 registers of wills at the time, but of all the Commonwealth's 67 registers of will at the time, only one refused to cave to the enormous pressure applied by left-wing activists and the liberal media, choosing instead to stand up for the rule of law. Theresa Gaffney took the fight all the way to the United States Supreme Court for her courage stand, during which she withstood a torrent of vile and intimidating emails and phone calls from liberals. The Pennsylvania Family Institute awarded Theresa with the prestigious Power of One Award. Rest assured that Theresa will never back down from liberal special interest in Harrisburg. Rest assured that Theresa will never back down from being a homophobe. Well, that's good to know. So, right after she shared that, as you probably know, I'm a part of the Pennsylvania Equality Project, and we happen to have 28,000 and some odd members. So I asked our entire group to go to her page. Let your voices be heard. And so they helped me take to the comments. Some of them are from the area. Theresa's voters will be voting for her in the primary elections in June of this year, which was postponed, by the way, from, I believe, a time in April because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But they helped me get her attention with over 186 comments, which was really fun. We finally did get her attention by flooding her entire page with rainbows. It was so much fun, honestly, to just, poke at a homophobe until they finally responded to our questions. Because I asked her all these questions over a dozen times. She refused to even comment back anything from her entire team. So finally we got her attention. And I reached out to her through private messages. And I asked her, will you support the PA Fairness Act, conversion therapy ban, LGBTQ education in all schools? Will you try to fight marriage equality at all if you're elected? With that many people commenting on her page, she finally got back to me. So she tells me she doesn't want to answer a lot of these questions to someone like me because I, in her eyes, am not a good enough reporter. Even though, I source things multiple times, I do a lot of hard work for my job, and, I'm a reporter for many different places. So, that's fun. But she goes, but on this context, I am head of an organization or head of this show, and then I'm also a part of another organization for LGBTQ rights. So I get that, I'm an activist. I do understand that I'm an activist on this issue. I'm not acting as a reporter on this. But also as a reporter, I'm just curious on her views because as a reporter, I'm trying to report for this show. I'm trying to figure out, hey, for the fans of this show, how are people going to vote if they're elected? You need to know this information in order to make a legitimate vote and know who you're voting for. I believe you should have all the information in front of you, regardless on what that information is. If someone's a homophobe, if someone's great on LGBTQ rights, you should know that information. It doesn't matter which side they lean. You should know that before getting into the ballot box, And that's something that I'm always trying to advocate here on the show is you need to know the information. So as a member of the media, I reach out to these people and I ask these questions for that reason. She goes, quote, "You're an activist, and that's okay, but I'm not beholden to activist," unquote. Keep in mind on her page, she's a huge NRA supporter. Isn't that being beholden to activist? But anyway, she continues, quote, "For the record, the issue of same-sex marriage is settled law. Even though my religious beliefs dictate marriage is between one man and one woman, I respect the decision of the Supreme Court. I in no way want to tell anyone who they can and can't love. The point of this post was to show that I will stand up for my and my voters' values, even in the face of hate and vitriol. I will not be bowed by special interest." Again, even though she supports the NRA. "You may not like my courage on this issue, but my ability to stand pat against hate may come in handy on an issue for which we both agree." It's a good response, actually. I actually do respect that response. I then asked her, hey, would you be willing to sit down with another of my colleagues? May not like me very much. I understand that. I'm an activist. I have a very, very heavy slant on this entire thing. I think she's a massive homophobe because she's a massive homophobe, and she's admitting it in her text messages that she still believes marriage is between a man and a woman only. So, yeah, I have a big slant on this. I understand that. But I'm not going to lie about what you say. I'm not going to take your words out of context. These are your exact words. I'm not going to do that. I'm a reporter first and foremost. So I always seek the truth no matter what that truth is. So anyway, I ask her, are you willing to sit down with members of the LGBTQ community in our county? Because keep in mind, there are multiple LGBTQ organizations and groups here in Schuylkill County, which she would be representing the citizens of if she was elected. So she goes, I absolutely would be willing to sit down and listen to issues affecting your community. As an outsider, it's hard to imagine what difficulties LGBTQ people face every day. I believe that once elected, I'll represent all of the 125th, not just the Republicans. So that's her quotes. So I do actually appreciate that. And if she is elected, we will be definitely taking her up on that offer. While I personally still do not want her elected because, she has a history, and she still doesn't want to answer our questions about the PA Fairness Act, which is the biggest issue up for election this year, for House of Representatives at least. So, she still hasn't answered my question on that, so I take it that she doesn't support that in any way, but at least she's respectful of the Supreme Court's decision on marriage equality, so that's good. So she has caved a little bit, but mostly so that she doesn't get arrested like Kim Davis was by not issuing marriage licenses. So I think that's more of it than anything. If the Kim Davis story didn't happen, I don't know if our situation here in Schuylkill County would be any different. But on the other side of that race, we also heard from another of the candidates in that same 125th race. So, she is running against three other people on that same ballot for the Republican primary, by the way. This is not the general election yet. But she's running against a man by the name of Christy Joy. Christy Joy, who responded to one of my comments of like, hey, because he asked, do you mind doing something and mind sharing a video of mine? And I'm like, hey, what do you mean? He comes back with, thanks, Matt. Everybody deserves a chance at happiness. And that is referencing, I believe, LGBTQ rights, because that is what we were talking about. So, so we sort of can figure, I mean, I'm not going to guarantee anything on anything here, but I can sort of say, there are other people on that ballot that support LGBTQ rights more than her, at least at this point. Again, we haven't gotten that sit-down interview with her, with a reporter friend of mine who will be able to ask a lot more questions. We haven't gotten that yet, but I'm hoping one day soon. Anyway, so a lot was happening on that side of things. And, again, on that story, when we were sharing it on the Pennsylvania Equality Project page, we were accused of, leaning to the Democratic side all the time. Again, I don't understand why people think we lean a certain way. We don't. No, Pennsylvania Equality Project and this show at Powered by Rainbows, we don't lean left or right or anywhere. We have one litmus test. If you remember science class back in the day, hold on. If you remember science class, you need water to talk for a long period of time. But if you remember science class, when you had the litmus paper, you stuck it in some water or chemical, and it came out either acidic or, whatever, right? I forget the other one. Anyway, it's been a long time since my high school days. So you had this little litmus paper, and that was your test for this chemical or whatever you were testing, right? To know what it is. And that's sort of the same premise we apply to Powered by Rainbows, Pennsylvania Equality Project, a lot of things. And even you apply it in your life everywhere you go, too. We here at Powered by Rainbows, we apply it and we say, are you for or against LGBTQ rights? That's our one litmus test. Powered by Rainbows doesn't cover things about the economy or, trade wars or any of this other stuff going on. Or, very rarely do we cover COVID-19. We do when it applies to LGBTQ, because certain people were accusing gay people of causing COVID-19, which was still really, really messed up a couple months ago. But we cover these things only when they apply to LGBTQ. But our one litmus test is, are you for or against LGBTQ rights? Literally, this show is not for any other purpose, Pennsylvania Equality Project, the same sort of premise. Are you for or against LGBTQ rights? We are for providing LGBTQ rights, such as the PA Fairness Act, conversion therapy ban, LGBTQ education, making sure that LGBTQ kids aren't homeless after they get kicked out from their parents' house, because that's somehow still legal in Pennsylvania and the United States for some really messed up reason. That's still legal. But we're for these things, And so in order to get that legislation passed, to make those things illegal and make LGBTQ rights legal, make conversion therapy banned, make, you know what I mean? In order to do that, we need people on our side in our elected offices. So when people are a candidate and vowing or vying for the job to get elected, we ask the question, are you for or against these things? That's our litmus paper. That is our one test for these people. Again, we don't care about oh, hey, What's your stance on the economy? What's your stance on opioids? What's your stance on... Those things are important, yes. But to our audiences, at all of our organizations that I'm a part of, it's, what's your stance on LGBTQ? That's it. We want to provide that specific information to you, because all these other news organizations are out there asking the questions about economy, opioids, healthcare, asking questions about trade, asking questions about the COVID-19 pandemic right now. All other media outlets are asking those questions. Even MHP TV for our other shows are asking those questions. Powered by Rainbows is here to ask questions on LGBTQ so you can make an informed decision. So, on that front, yeah, like, when you fail that test, Theresa Gaffney, it's hard to, cover that story with a good light. It's hard to cover that story without our audience being extremely upset with that candidate. And so luckily our fans supported us that day and went to her page and covered her entire page with rainbows. It was so fun to see that. Not that I like trolling people, it's just a matter of if you're to the point of being so proud of getting a homophobic award from what legitimately is classified under federal court law as a hate group, if you're proud as hell of that, willing to share it on Facebook of like, look what I did. Way back in the day, I was the only clerk of courts who stood up against marriage equality, right? If you're so proud of that, this is the response you can get. Just saying. Like, you again failed that litmus test. How do you expect to get votes from allies of our community if you fail that test? And keep in mind, a majority of Americans support the Equality Act. So, like, you're getting rid of your voters massively by being proud of your homophobia. So that is on her at this point. And I take it from the conversation I had with other candidates that they are not on the same page about things. So that was fun to have those conversations. But anyway, enough Theresa Gaffney, because I've spoken about her way too much this month with my entire team behind the scenes here. Also this month, the president of our Pennsylvania Equality Project needed some time off for medical reasons. I won't really go into it, but he asked me to be the vice president of the organization this past month. So that's fun. And I get to be VP now. So my friends have been like saying, hey, guess this means you're just as gay as Mike Pence now, right? But yeah, just not as homophobic. So it's been fun to sort of take a little bit more of a leadership role and start doing some more stuff there. I'll admit this has been very, very fun. So we have a lot of work to do going forward to defeat or at least try to help the Theresa Gaffneys of the world change their ways a little bit. So anyway, moving on to our actual stories of the month. Oh, it's been so much fun. So Germany passed conversion therapy ban. Oh, that is so nice. It's so nice to hear some good news. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you, Germany. Why can't we do that in America? Like, okay, I love all the countries of the world. I do, except for the homophobic ones. But like, how is America, the land of the free, not like already on these things? How are we behind Germany on this? Or any country on this, really? I mean, there's a list of countries who have banned conversion therapy. Germany is just the latest. So like, how are we behind any of them? Land of the free, home of the... You can still go to a conversion camp, which many people call suicide camps. So that's fun. But, I mean, they passed this with, I believe, it was a $32,000 fine. And yet there's no prison time on that. So these very far right conservative church groups, they don't have big donors at all, and they don't have deep pockets. Sure. Yeah. They're going to find a way around it. But good news is it's a start. And that's the point of the story, is it is a start in the right direction. So, to honestly, when you ban conversion therapy, I'm just going to put it out there. It should just be ban on conversion therapy. No age limit. No if you're over 18, it's fine. Come on. Ban conversion therapy. Just ban it. It's not healthy for anyone. Many, many organizations across the board have proven that conversion therapy is just asking people to commit suicide. It's pushing them to that. That's the only thing it's accomplished in all these years. So, just if you're going to ban it across the board. Don't put an age limit on it. Don't make it a fine. Make it, you go to prison for a long fucking time. Just do that, But it's a start. So I will say that. So thank you, Germany, for at least putting a start to it. There's a lot of work left to do. Your neighbors, not really next door neighbors, but your neighbors in Europe, Russia, it's a much more fun country to talk about. And some Russian is from the government's watching this episode and going, you mentioned Russia, and I don't know what my impressions are anymore. I really don't. I used to be able to do a Russian impression really good. Anyway, so I know someone from Russia is watching and going how dare this Matt Haslam kid talk about us on his PPR show? But, hey, whatever. You do bad things, this is what you get. So, they did this study. 1 in 5 Russians don't want LGBTQ people in their country. And, why they mentioned the word eliminate so many times in this, it was you're asking people to think that you're trying to exterminate people, right? That's what you're asking for here. But when you really start to read the stories and the multiple reports, anytime we cover a story, you should know we find multiple outlets who have covered that story, who, first off, that allows us to get a lot more information than one outlet edits down the information to the best of the best. So if we get multiple sources for that information, first off, we're able to get more information on that story overall. And secondly, we're able to make sure the bare bones of that story is more accurate then. We also do follow-up on a lot of stories. So if something references a study that was done, I'm going to look for that study and I'm going to try to read it myself because I want to know all the facts to a situation before we start reporting on it. In that story, interestingly, they asked Russians, 1,600 Russians, how far from society do you think these groups of individuals are? LGBTQ, interestingly in there was HIV and AIDS as well. There was pedophiles and terrorists and feminists. I'm why are you grouping all those people together, first off? But secondly, okay, you group them together into a study and you're asking how far those groups of individuals are from the Russian society. And sadly, the one piece of information I was looking for on that story was their results on every other group of how far from society do Russians want terrorists to be? How far from society do they want pedophiles to be? Is it the same, or is it 5 out of 5 Russians want terrorists to be out of their society? Which you would hope that would be the case, but is the data telling them different things for different groups, or is it somewhat close of pedophiles are only 2 out of 5 people? That would be honestly horrible to hear, that LGBTQ is so close to another group, and that's why I was trying to find that information especially for you guys, because it's just very interesting to me, and I think you guys would find that information very valuable in a story. So that's why I always try to follow things to the very, very end. And, this month it was so hard to find that study. I still haven't found it, but I'm hoping to find it soon. And if I'm able to find it, I will either make an update to this news story, or we're just going to make an episode all about that study in general. So that'd be kind of fun. But then the next story of the month was about Netflix and Amazon Prime coming together. Whew, what a great story. That brought my spirits up. Honestly, like, I'm on Twitter and, hold on. Like I said, not edited at all. I'm sorry. I just don't have the time to edit this part of the show. So, anyway, I'm on Twitter, and if you're on Twitter and you don't follow a certain president, then, or any news outlets covering what the president says every day, you tend not to get very political on Twitter. So right now, my Twitter is just full of LGBTQ people, very, very loving community of the LGBTQ. Basically, my Twitter ends up being one giant pride festival all the time, every day. Because it's just a bunch of positivity and a bunch of loving things. And then one of my friends on Twitter shared the Netflix, or retweeted, technically that's the word for it, retweeted the Netflix response to this homophobic tweet. And I'm just like, kudos to you, Netflix, for, like, the organization of Netflix responding and being like, yo, every gay person's valuable. Sorry you don't know that yet. I'm like, oh, thank you so much, Netflix, for being amazing. Like, honestly, last night before we recorded this episode, last night I just ended up watching an entire comedy special, more of The Office, because I'm addicted to The Office TV show. And I know some of our fans out there are, interestingly enough, addicted to The Office as well. One of you named your channel after The Office. And I'm like, not The Office specifically, but something referencing The Office. And I'm like, awesome, man. So whoever did that, just thank you. Because you made my whole day that day when you subscribed. But anyway, so, like, I was watching Netflix all night last night. And then I just came across this story. I'm like, wow, thank you, Netflix, man. That was awesome. So, good job to them, and for Amazon Prime for fully supporting that and getting behind it and be like, no, Netflix ain't the only one. We're supportive of it too, So it sort of was like a giant middle finger to this homophobe saying, like, yeah, we're not going to stop putting gay characters in our TV shows. Sorry, we're not going to do it because they're just as valuable. And sorry you have yet to realize that. And then Amazon Prime's like, you didn't even complain about us doing it. Like, we're going to do it too. So, ha 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 ha. Now you got two big platforms, behind putting gay people in shows. So, congratulations to this homophobe. You really made a change, You really brought us back to the 1800s, didn't you? Like, whatever, man. Like, Netflix was awesome for doing that. So thank you to the Netflix people and the Amazon Prime people for doing that. You made my whole freaking day. You just did. So that was that story. And then, where's my mouse? No. Then we go on to Morocco. Oh, man, Morocco. What a story. First off, that's a country you should just never visit as a gay person because it is still illegal to be gay in Morocco, and you're putting your entire self at risk for being imprisoned, which, reading a story like that makes you so much... feel so lucky to live in a country where being gay is no longer criminalized, and Hopefully we never return to that. And I don't think we will. I think once it kind of went away, it'll stay this way for good now. At least for my lifetime and your lifetime. But it's sad to hear other countries still criminalize it. And to think that anyone outed anyone else in a country like that is terrible. But to know it's someone from the community, it makes it a million times worse. Because this transgender person knows how hard it is to be LGBTQ. And they outed other people anyway. Like, I genuinely, I don't have anything nice to say about that. And I imagine you guys don't either in the comments. But apparently there was a story before it of someone was mean to her or tried to out her, even though I don't know if transgender laws are the same in Morocco as gay laws. All I know is that being gay is illegal in Morocco. But apparently there was something that happened beforehand with one, two, or a group of gay people who didn't like her or something like that. Something happened. And the story on that is very, very vague, which is why we didn't want to report on it, because I only want to report on like the legitimate facts of a situation that we know for 100% from multiple outlets. Like I said before in this after show, that part is very vague. Not too many people are covering it because no one's really sure what happened there, you know, before she decided to go on Facebook Live and instruct her viewers to out everyone they know. But something happened, apparently. But her beef with a certain number of people ended up her outing 100 gay men. And in a statement later on, she was interviewed by a musician later on. How she was allowed on any program after that, I have no freaking idea. But she did an interview, and she said, basically, I do not regret outing the people who wronged me, but I regret outing the everyday gay person that was just living their life happily before this. So then why did you instruct people to out everyone they know? Why the did you do that? Like, why not just, if you're mad at these people over here, go after those people over here. Don't out them. No, never fucking do that in a million years. But if you have a problem with these people, talk to those people, you know? Take your problem up with those people. Don't go over here and out 100 other people that have nothing to do with the situation. They were all living happy lives before this. Sure, they were in a country where homosexuality was illegal and they couldn't be out, but they were still living a life freely. They couldn't be gay openly, but they can still live without being in prison, you know? And here you are outing them. How dare that woman? How dare you do that? Let alone being a transgender person. Just how dare you out anyone, let alone that many people, and instruct your viewers on how to do it, you know? The worst part of that story, which really wasn't covered by any outlet, was the fact that she's not going to be charged with anything. You know, like, at least in America here, there's harassment laws or something you can get her on, you know, for doing this horrible action, you know, which honestly there should be a law to help people like that. Of like, you cannot out someone else for being gay or transgender. You can't out them. That should be a law. It's not currently in America, but it should be, definitely. But, you know, you can get her on harassment or multiple charges, you know, on other things for doing the same action. And for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all to like delete her channels, that's great. They're also following up and making sure she can't create another channel. They're doing the hard work there, and they're in full solidarity between all of the platforms, saying, hey, no one can do this. Doesn't matter, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you can't do that. Sorry, you're not on any of our platforms anymore. So all of them are sticking together for the same cause here, which is fantastic, and I applaud them for doing so. But in Morocco, because it's illegal to be gay, sadly, I can almost guarantee you, there's no law against outing someone as gay. So if there's not a law in America, there's no law in Morocco. I can almost guarantee that. I pretty much didn't even have to look into making sure before I said that. You know, like, just come on, you know. So now she has to live in a world where she outed 100 people, and a lot of people hate her for it. So, and now she's no longer an influencer at all, because her job was now taken away from her by the platforms that she was on, because she did such a horrible thing. So, hey, now she has to find another job or means of income. Good luck with that, you know. But yeah, hey, in that country, it's a shame there's no laws against doing what she did. So she gets to go away scot-free, other than a bunch of people hating her, which is really sad. So there's not much that I really could say to her, or I think you guys would have the same opinion on that story as I would. So, you know. Anyway, moving on. Oh no. Moving on to our next story. Courtney Brousseau. I probably really butchered that name again. Another sad story. I mean, the only good news, like I said in the episode, the only good news, if there can be good news in a story like that of a murder, is that it probably wasn't targeted for being an LGBTQ activist. It probably was just caught in a crossfire, wrong place at the wrong time, but still a very sad story, because our community lost a great member that day. We lost a great advocate that day and a great activist. So someone who did incredible work for our community, even though it was in just the San Francisco area, incredible work nonetheless. So I believe on our show, or in general, we should mourn the deaths of our fallen activists who do such a great job, like Courtney, like the LGBTQ rights lawyer in New York, who 2 months ago died of COVID-19, and then you have this other group of True News, celebrating the death and like going on and on about like, oh well, he was such a horrible man, and like, no, he was a great man. He fought for LGBTQ rights. He fought your homophobia. Get over it. like we should be mourning his loss, not trying to change the narrative to, oh, well, they try to sue churches. Well, when those churches do bad things, that's what happens. Don't do bad things then, So, and another one of our great people passed away, sadly, and taken from the world too soon. But hey, hopefully, if you believe in a God, hopefully Courtney is in a better place now. But moving on to our next story, because I don't know what kind of transition I can make there from two very sad stories in a row. But next up, we talk about Anderson Cooper. I felt like in our show we needed to like lighten the mood a little bit there. So I was like, Anderson Cooper, that's a great story for the month, because he's a father now. Amazing. Honestly, like, in his report on that, he was saying, oh, like, as a gay kid, I never thought I can be a dad. And I'm like, that's exactly what I thought my entire childhood, you know? In our last episode when we talked about my childhood signs that I was gay, like, that entire time in my life was spent being angry at myself for being gay. You know, why do I have these feelings for guys instead of girls? And then I'm like, you know what? Here's Anderson Cooper in a similar situation as I was as a kid, going, I don't think I'm ever going to be a dad because I'm gay. I can't have kids of my own. And here's a society that doesn't fully accept it yet. And now it's like, well, a lot of people are massively supportive of Anderson Cooper having a kid. So, I mean, not that people's, like, support was what I needed to be a dad, but, you know, laws were a thing back in the day when being gay was still illegal in the United States. Honestly, in my lifetime, in my uncle's lifetime, as I referenced back in the documentary that we did in the beginning of season 3, called Blake, by the way, if you want to go watch it. But, you know, like, hearing a story like Anderson Cooper's of being a dad from a surrogate mother, first off, that gives you hope in America. That gives you hope in the world that, you know, there are good people out there who want to help the LGBTQ community and help us be parents, help us in our life, and have a perfectly normal life as fathers or as mothers for lesbian couples. It brings you so much joy hearing that story. And I mean, come on, like, he named his kid after, it was such a sweet story. So I was like, well, we're definitely including that. And let's put it like right after the Morocco and the other sad stories of Courtney's death. And that way it brings the mood up a little bit. Because I feel like sometimes in these news shows, well, we talk about very bad things and then it goes, oh, wow, we talked about a lot of bad things sometimes. And so I sometimes want to lighten the mood. And that was a perfect story. Plus, it's so good to hear Anderson Cooper's a father. I think he's a great person, a great reporter. So to hear that he's a father, I mean, Wyatt Cooper has an amazing dad, so he'll have an amazing life. So, you know, kudos to that little kid, and I wish Anderson and his little kid the best. So, and I think all of our audience would do the same. So, next up, talking about... I don't know how he came next, but Trump. This is, again, going back to that thing where we try to be unbiased and we try to have that litmus paper test. So, okay, most presidents, we put that litmus paper test up to, and we're like, all right, well, are you for or against LGBTQ rights? It just so happened that, you know, if you go back to President Clinton, Bill Clinton, back in the day, that was pretty much the first president I remember as a 27-year-old. I'm pretty sure there was a president before that was in my lifetime. It's just, that's the first one I really remember as a president. He had Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So he's a Democrat, and, you know, he did things against the LGBTQ community. So he failed that litmus test. And so you go, okay, well, that's a Democrat who goes against the LGBTQ community. It's rare to find that, honestly, but he went against it. So he made one homophobic action that at least I am currently aware of on it without doing research too much into Bill Clinton. I know we did research on Don't Ask, Don't Tell many times for this show and other programs that I'm a part of, but, you know, that was one in 8 years. And then we go on to President George W. Bush, and he was homophobic too, which is why when him and Ellen DeGeneres were at a sporting event game together, and laughing together. Ellen was like questioned for how dare she, laugh and get along with a homophobic president. She's like, yes, he's a homophobic person, but that doesn't mean we can't shake hands. That doesn't mean we can't sit next to each other and get along and be civil with one another just because we disagree on something, which was brilliant of her to say, by the way, because that a lot of times in politics or any kind of thing, we talk about, we can't be friends if you're against this. No, we can still be friends. It's just, I know this information about you, So, George W. Bush was homophobic. But again, only a certain number of things that he did homophobic in office. Then we go on to President Obama. And in President Obama's day, he passed Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act to not allow any healthcare providers to discriminate against LGBTQ people. He also, in his term, had marriage equality passed. Okay. I'm not going to comment on his economy, on his trade deals, whatever else he did. Again, if we're strictly talking about that litmus test of are you for or against LGBTQ rights, he passed that test multiple times. And then we go on to Trump. So in history, we had like Eisenhower, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. There were others who did like 1 or 2 homophobic things in their entire presidency. And then we come to Trump. He's not even in a second term yet. Already 136 anti-LGBTQ policies and actions. And now his entire team is drafting a new section of 1557, which would bar gay people and lesbians, and transgender people from being treated equally in hospitals and healthcare. Because, in the middle of a pandemic, what you really need is discrimination, right? Because going to a hospital in need of any kind of medical need, or going to your doctor for a regular checkup, or any of these things. First off, we did our research on this topic for many different episodes. I will say, gay and lesbian people and transgender people in Pennsylvania, we just read the needs assessment report by the Pennsylvania Department of Health. They are the people that are in charge of hospitals and healthcare in Pennsylvania, by the way. That is how the system works. So they did this report, and they did this survey asking LGBTQ people what they need out of the Department of Health, what they need in general. And they came back with a resounding number of people who think their doctors and their healthcare providers and people in ERs and hospitals need at least basic training on how to help LGBTQ people. There's no training there right now to fit the specific needs of LGBTQ people. So, that was a main thing that came out of that report in 2018. That was 2 years ago. Where is that training now? In 2 years, we didn't see that training. So we definitely, after the pandemic's over, we have a couple questions to ask. But for right now, we're letting the Department of Health concentrate on getting us past the global pandemic that's happening right now. But, overall, we want to ask those questions. But my main point in saying that is, it's still a problem nowadays. It's not just our organization, finding these reports. Our Department of Health, the PA Equality Project, Bradbury Sullivan, LGBTQ Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Not just our organizations. There are many organizations that are finding this across the country, where LGBTQ people are being denied service in hospitals, in healthcare systems, and it makes no sense. Why deny service? I just don't understand it. Why discriminate against people? If you're in need of help, does it matter that you go home to your husband instead of a wife? Does it really matter to a doctor? They're getting paid the same to help you, and you still need the same care in order to live. I don't understand that discrimination. So the fact that you would try to rewrite something, a basic protection, the first of its kind in all of the United States on a federal level to protect LGBTQ people from healthcare discrimination. The fact that you would even try to rewrite that is beyond my capability of understanding why you would try to do that. Here we are. His administration has now drafted the rewrite of Section 1557, and it does not include protections for LGBTQ people. So that's fun to know. And because his administration is the one writing it, he is completely projected to sign it into policy as soon as it's on his desk, which I hope is not anytime soon. At least not during the pandemic, because, it's been proven many, many times now that the minorities of the country are disproportionately affected by COVID-19. So why are we trying to have discrimination right now? Even at the best of times, as one person who was the head of an organization that was quoted in this, I was reading one report, they're like, at the best of times, this is a horrible thing to do. Why do it now when disproportionately LGBTQ people and other minorities are affected by COVID-19? Why now? Why anytime, really? But, if you have 136, which is pretty much one anti-LGBTQ action or policy per week of your presidency, eventually you run out of anti-LGBTQ things to do. So I guess this is the next thing on the list. But, we shall see what comes of Trump in the coming weeks here, and we shall see if he signs it into law, or signs it into policy, I'm sorry. We shall see if he gets reelected in November. And I'm not going to comment on that too much, because I know the comments would go crazy then over people like, I'm for Trump, I'm against Trump. Again, we go back to that litmus test on the show. Are you for or against LGBTQ rights? Every other president in history that has been homophobic has only done one or maybe two actions against the LGBTQ. 136 later. That's all I'm going to say on that front. We don't lean right. We don't lean left. We consider ourselves independent as a press organization. But that litmus test is so far failed, we just don't know how to cover it anymore. I just don't understand. I genuinely am running out of ways to describe the things Trump has done against our community on this show or other shows. Because when I'm on a guest on another show or something like that, it's like, what do you think about Trump? I'm like, please don't get into that. I've run out of ways to describe his homophobia and his transphobia. But yeah. There is other good news in the country, like Candice Keller. She didn't win the primary elections right now. And it's like, but still you got 8,000 votes or something like that. Why? How did 8,000 people go, you know what? You're blaming mass shootings on gay people. Well, that's totally reasonable. How? How did 8,000 people do that? But more importantly, 12,000 people voted for the other guy, and you lost. So hopefully she doesn't run as an independent in the general election. Hopefully she's just out of politics forever. Or she changes her ways. That's also an option too. I mean, I'm not going to just say someone should stop doing everything, because if you change, you change. I'm hoping that Candice Keller changes, but I mean, if you're dumb enough to overlook the fact that mass shootings are caused by guns and mental health issues, then you're probably dumb enough to try to run again, thinking that mass shootings are caused by gay people. So, anyway, it was really fun to cover that story like now, but also terrifying to cover it back in September when she originally made that comment. You're like, how? What science is behind what you're saying, and how are you going to get reelected? Because back when doing that story, we found out she is up for reelection this year. So why would you say that at that moment, especially when you have at that time when she made that comment, there were 9 people dead. I mean, they're still dead, but at the time there were 17 people still in the hospital from that mass shooting that happened in Dayton, Ohio. So out of all the moments you can say something that's stupid, Ohioans are in the hospital recovering. Families are still mourning. And you're going to say it was caused by gay people and Obama and marijuana and all these other things. Like, seriously? Like, it came as honestly no surprise that she wasn't reelected this time, but also a huge good story to hear right now, because that's what we need to hear. We need to hear the homophobes of the world finally getting voted out of office. And I'm not saying that the guy that got voted in for the primary, at least, because there's still a general election yet, but I'm not saying that guy is any better, but at least he doesn't think that mass shootings are caused by gay people. So, step in the right direction. It's progress. It's a tiny step in the right direction. Like, it went from having an F rating by that organization, Ohio Equality Ohio or something. It went by having an F rating for Candice Keller to a D rating for George. And I'm like, you know what? Baby steps towards equality. That's where we're going. We can only ask to go so fast with this. So, hey, progress is progress. So we have to accept it and just be happy we got a small victory. And then finally, the last thing we're going to talk about today, global pride. Because, I mean, honestly, this year I was planning on going down to either up to New York Pride or down for Washington, D.C. Pride, because I'm from Pennsylvania here for the show. And I was planning on going to one of them. I already went to Washington, D.C. Pride with my best friend a couple years ago. It was the best day of my whole life, by a mile, by a million miles. It was the best day of my life, because that's the day I came out to the world, and it was my first ever Pride event. So massive props to the organizers of Washington Pride, but for throwing a great party. But I was thinking about going there again, or the New York City Pride this year, visiting Stonewall maybe, stuff like that. But with all the prides being canceled and postponed and crazy stuff happening, even the ones in July and August this year being postponed now or put virtually online. So it's kind of tough to see that, but at the same time, you're like, it's for the safety of everyone. So, I don't want to see LGBTQ people die from this. We're already disproportionately affected by it, so let's not all get together in a huge crowd right now. Let's postpone and let's figure it out later, of have an event when it's safe. So, as an event organizer myself, I completely understood why they do it. It's just a matter of, it's depressing to know they're all being canceled or postponed. 300 of them worldwide have been canceled altogether right now. And so it was great to hear that prides are being reinstated sort of with the Global Pride Online. And it was great to see so many of these prides coming together and going, we can't do something in person, but we can do something online for people. And so immediately, as soon as I heard about it, I'm like, I talked with, first off, a producer here at PBR, and, well, really a producer at MHP TV, who's behind PBR show, which is my company, like TV network. I talked with my producer, and I'm like, hey, can we be part of this thing? And then I reached out to our group here for our May meeting for the Pennsylvania Equality Project, and I'm like, hey, can we be part of this too, So we're definitely trying to at least help in whatever way we can to that global pride, because it's a fantastic idea that I wholeheartedly support. So we shall see in the coming weeks here. We'll be sharing some status updates on that. If they come, I'll be sharing that on our Facebook pages. Then on that day, we'll be sharing the live stream, definitely. Because no matter if we're an official part of it or not at that point, I still want to share it for you guys to enjoy it and be a part of it and watch the entire thing, because it's going to be an amazing broadcast worldwide. It's just going to be freaking incredible, because the people behind it are incredible. And the community they're doing it for is the best community in the whole wide world. That's you guys, the LGBTQ. I've said it many times. This is the best community in the whole world, because y'all are so loving and accepting and so happy all the time. I love it. Yeah, I know a lot of us have depression. I understand that. Like, statistics wise, yes. But comment wise on all of our stuff, or just Pennsylvania Equality Project, or support in the whole community, I just have been overwhelmed by how nice and kind and happy everyone is. So, thank you for being a part of the community. Thank you for watching this insanely long episode and after show entire thing that we're doing to talk about what's happening. And I'm sure we'll be back in maybe June for a new show. I don't know when the next new show will be, but I know we'll have weekly episodes for y'all, because that is the schedule we're going on right now. Because it's a pandemic, I'm like, well, there's no live events for my company to do right now. So, my company is operating on a limited basis for what we can legally do right now, because events are canceled. So it's for the safety of everyone. And I've always said at my company, safety is always number one over profits, over everything. So yeah, we're hurting right now, but if it's for the safety of people, we're going to do it. And so right now it's just a matter of hanging in there. And I hope you all are hanging in there. I hope you all are doing okay. I probably should have said that in the very beginning of the episode, but I hope you're doing okay. And I hope you're hanging in there. I hope, you're finding support. If you need any help or with anything, comment down below. I'll try to help you out. Or if you just want someone to talk to, comment down below. I try to respond to almost every comment on this channel. So, if not me, one of my team members or one of our amazing community out there. Now that we have 600 subscribers, which I'm still baffled at the fact, because when you start a channel and you're like, oh, I only have 0 subscribers on the board, and you get really how am I gonna make this work, But I did it for fun. That's what this channel is about, is for fun. And so what we have, first off, if you hanged in there this long for this episode, I hope you did. I think you deserve a little taste of what's to come. So in June, we have a couple great episodes planned for you guys. It is going to be a Pride Month packed of rainbows for you guys. I'm so happy about it. I sort of planned on doing it all along, but with limited client work throughout the whole pandemic, I've sort of been well, now we can go bigger, you know? Let's make PBR a bigger show for June, for Pride Month. So, yay. So we're planning a lot. I know one of the episodes, and we're planning on doing an update to an old episode, which includes a lot more. And it very well might be one of the most popular episodes of all time for our show. We're planning that. We're planning... Oh God, a whole lot more. Oh, there's so much. But there's an interview in June in Pride, so that's cool. We're scheduling that interview right now, and that way it can come out to you guys in June, guys and gals in June. And what else do we have planned? Oh, there's another episode planned, but I don't know if I want to hint at it yet. But anyway. That is all for our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching and hanging in there for this entire thing. But anyway, yeah, if you want to talk, I always try to answer all of our comments, even though there's like 600 of you guys now. So I try to as best as I can. Or one of my team members or one of you guys will like have a conversation between yourselves. What I love is the fact that now there's so many of you that you guys have started like answering your own questions back and forth. And like another community member will see your comment and answer it. And I'm like, hey, cool. Like, good job, like, thanks for answering that for me, So that's what I mean by it. You guys are so supportive of your own community and the community we're all part of. You're also so supportive of each other. When someone comments and says, they need some advice on how to come out or something, I'm not just sharing the episodes we made for that, but you guys are commenting and helping each other out and saying, here's some advice that I learned in your own personal stories. So it's just incredible what you guys are doing. So, keep on doing that. And we're always here to have a conversation in the comments. So feel free to like, comment, and start a conversation. We're a community for a reason. Also, there's a lot of topics this month. So like, let us know your thoughts on them. Again, the only real rules I have for comments are like, if it's a homophobic or a transphobic comment, I'm not going to allow it. I'm sorry. That's just not what our channel's for. We're here for the positivity, education, and empowerment of LGBTQ. We're not here for homophobes because they're the minority in the world right now. So that's good. So anyway, that's the only rules I have, and you guys wouldn't do that. So comment down below, start a conversation, and ask us any questions you have. If you have a news story that you want us to cover for next month or another month in the future, comment down below. Or if you have a topic idea for an episode, we would love to hear it. We have a lot of ideas, grant you, but one of your ideas, believe it or not, goes above our list. So we have a list of like ideas of like, we need an episode out this week. What are we going to do? There are a lot of ideas out there for episodes that we already like my team assembles or whatever. But then one of your comments goes above that whole list because you guys wanted to see it. So it goes above that list, and that's like the next thing we make. So if you guys comment down below your topic ideas, we will probably end up making them if they're good. So, or if we can possibly make them an episode. There are some things that people have commented over the years of like, make this giant thing that cost $1 million. And I'm like, I don't have the budget for PBR. So sometimes it's weird, but like, just budget thing. But anyway, please do comment down below and like this video, share it with others, subscribe to the channel. If you watch this for probably what's going to be an hour at this point or whatever, wherever we're at in the video at this point, you're probably subscribed, but hit that rainbow subscribe button. And thank you all for joining us. As always, I'm your host, Matt Haslam. This has been PBR. Have a gay day, everyone. And bye for now. And it is now 1:30 in the morning. Good night, y'all. In real time, it's 1:30 in the morning. At your time, it might be a different time because this is broadcasted. But 1:30 in the morning. Good night. Watch Powered by Rainbows Season 3, only on MHP TV.